Hello and welcome to HT Auto. I'm Shubhadeep Chakravarti, and you've already seen something very exciting coming out of the Tata Motors stable. Tata Motors as a company has been spearing its way forward in the world of electric mobility. The likes of the Nexon electric vehicle and the Tigor has helped the company take a formidable share in the Indian EV space. Electric vehicles are not just the future, they are the present. And to have a better say, a stronger say in the electric vehicle market, more cars, better cars, and more options. That's what Tata Motors is gunning for. And therefore, to speak to us more about the plans ahead and, of course, about the concept curve, we're joined today by Martin Uhlarik. He's Global Design Head at Tata Motors. Martin, thank you for taking the time out and speaking to us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right. The curve. Tell us something about this concept vehicle. Looks absolutely stunning from the outside, looks very catchy on the inside as well. But if you can just take us through the design development phase.
Yes, what we were looking at was how to expand our SUV portfolio. You know, our core of our product lineup is essentially SUV based. And we started that with the Nexon, establishing that as the sort of foundation. Then we went upmarket with the Harrier and the Safari. Now we've gone subsequently, into the compact space with the Punch. So we were looking at what is the next sort of, expansion of that. It's now the mainstream in the market. So we also were looking at what is the best way to accentuate our EV range. And when you drive the Nexon EV, it's actually quite a dynamic vehicle to experience, to drive. It has an immense torque curve. It's very emotional to drive, quite exciting. So we thought it was quite natural to look at the coupe typology and marry it with an SUV base. So that's essentially the recipe. We have an SUV core foundation. We said, what if we make it more sporty? And then at the same time, it's underlined by the fact that it's an EV.
Right. As I understand, concept curve, when it does hit, it's not a question of if, but it's a question of when. When it does hit production lines, it will sit above the Nexon EV. So I'm trying to understand when you're talking about electric vehicles, there is a school of thought which believes that it's not so much about the bigger, bolder road presence, but it's about the range. And if you can get the range in a compact form, why not? But this car, the concept, is a lot bolder, it's a lot bigger, at least in the concept from what we've seen. Was that a conscious decision?
Yes, I mean, to be honest, we started with the platforms that we have in the portfolio, and we assessed which one is the right one. But then at the same time, to achieve a coupe silhouette, the balancing act was to maintain the emotion of a coupe so it doesn't look compromised, but at the same time offer the second row the same headroom, ingress, egress, and the functionality that would be expected. So the interior space is not compromised, and that got us to the 4.3 meter sort of length of the vehicle. At the same time, to get the right balance, what we recommended was we moved the rear wheels rearward to get a better proportion. So this area, this sort of rear three-quarter, was actually the foundation to make the car work. And we did a lot of versions of, trying this, trying that, and ultimately we found the balance to get the proportions right.
Understood. But coupe as a body form, body type, that's something that, would you agree that may or may not have necessarily worked in the past in the context of the Indian market?
Oh yeah, definitely. We know that this is a relatively new idea into the Indian market, and we feel the time is right to introduce this. We know from global markets that the coupe typology started in Europe and in North America probably 10 years ago on average, and now we've seen it expand into other markets. So at the beginning it was also a niche, and now it's actually quite mainstream. To be honest, I would say that it's almost 50-50 between coupes and classic functional SUVs now.
Right. During the development stage of the concept curve, was there any inspiration from the existing lineup of Tata Motors vehicles, electric or otherwise, electric or conventional?
Yeah, I mean, always the design development is an evolution. So, you can definitely see a lineage already, even in this one. You can see hints of the other products in this one. There's a number of design features. The front fender, is reminiscent of the Punch. The overall, some applications are reminiscent of other previous previous models and so forth. So we really believe we have a successful DNA, design DNA. It's also important that when you see this car in the showroom, in the next sort of 2 years, that it looks consistent with the rest of the portfolio. So it's the newest model, so it'll be the most progressive one, the most sort of futuristic one. That's by virtue of it being the youngest one. But at the same time, there is a consistency there. Even, you can see echoes of some of the concepts that we've done in the past.
Right. Something very interesting that you said, and would have touched upon that subsequently, but Concept Curve is right now, as the name suggests, in concept form. Production is likely in the next 2 years. Tata Motors is right now conducting feasibility tests, studying the feedback that this car receives. But something that Tata Motors is also underlining is the Gen 2 EV architecture. Now, if you can just tell us something more about that, what is special, what's new about Gen 2?
With Gen 2, from a design point of view, it's pretty straightforward. We are developing now pretty much all the products, to be, applicable in both EV and ICE format. In the case of the Curve, we just looked at which was the right platform to go forward with. But we, broadly speaking, we just now bunch them all as just a Gen 2 generation, because of course it is a hybrid in the fact that it has to sustain both powertrains. And then, of course, it's a lead-in eventually into a Gen 3 generation in the next couple of years.
Right. So, as I understand, this car will be an electric first, and then in the petrol.
Yes, this is the first time we're doing it in that order. Traditionally, up to now, we've had an ICE car and we've made an EV conversion. Now we're actually, seeing that, we're leaders in the EV market space. And obviously, it's the future. It's where the market and our brand is going. So we thought that this was the right product to be the one that we actually do EV first.
Right, Martin. This gets me to a question that's on the minds of a lot of people who are considering an electric vehicle, maybe now or subsequently in the next couple of years. When an EV is being designed, is EV design now bridging the gap between what the Indian market, the Indian audience wants, vis-a-vis what people in Europe, people in Americas want? Because traditionally with ICE vehicles, what we've seen is certain products can be very specific to certain markets, developing markets. Now, is EV bridging that gap?
It is. To be honest, the Indian market has the same expectations from an EV like pretty much any market in terms of quality assurance, range anxiety, aerodynamic efficiency. Efficiency is actually a kind of byline word of our design development for this car. We have to communicate the fact that it is an EV visually, but that it also actually does the job, to get you from A to B as economically and efficiently as possible. And that actually has to be communicated through the design. So yeah, I would say now the expectations, of an EV are pretty consistent in any market.
Right. Martin, which gets me to my final question. It's perhaps the riskiest question to answer, but it's also something that our readers, our audience want to know. Every time a concept is showcased, you know the question already. So why don't you go ahead and take that question?
Yeah, it's, we designed this car all the time with production in mind. So, we're calling it the concept, but to be honest, the production car exists in our studio. We're very close to completing it. When you have them next to each other, the differences are very small. 5% at best. To be honest, we've had a pretty good track record in terms of delivering on the promise, whenever we've shown the concept. And I think with each one, we progressively are getting better and better. This one, for sure, the customers will not be disappointed when they see it.
All right, Martin. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking to HT Auto.
All right, thank you.
Right, and thank you to you too for watching this episode. As Martin explained, this car is in concept form for now, but will hit production lines in the next 2 years. And we take Martin's word, what you see is probably what you're going to eventually see very close, very similar on the roads as well. So there you go, the Concept Curve from Tata Motors.